All right. Hello, everybody. It's the Skeptic and the Mystic. Finally, we're a little not on a rhythm with our show, but that's okay. So, Deb and Heather, we're flying by the seat of our pants, right? But yeah, Skeptic and the Mystic. We're going to talk about some of the things that we think are a little bit mystical, and then we'll approach them with some practicality. So today we are going to talk about how to know if you are emotionally trapped. So we both talk a lot about the emotion code, the body code. That's a form of energy medicine that we both practice that works foundationally on releasing trapped emotions. What the heck are trapped emotions, and how do you know if you have them? Spoiler alert, everybody has some.
More
than some. And even when you've cleared them, you might get some more. Yeah.
Well, I love this topic, especially now. I mean, I do know about you. Like, there's so much going on in the world, and no matter what end you fall on anything, like, people are just frustrated and people are angry, and there's a lot of stuff that's bringing up. And I had somebody message me, and about some stuff that I was posting, and she was just like, I appreciate you posting stuff. She's like, I see you, I hear you. She's like, I'm just sitting over here too afraid to say anything. Right. But then she's realizing like how much I played into like childhood and some things that came up from childhood. And then there was some past life trauma. When I speak up, then I get killed. Right. And it's like, oh my gosh. And
so many layers of it right now, actually, now that you say that, because then there's also, we're all living in the midst of trauma right now. And that little inability to speak up, I think, is incredibly heightened in our current culture, right? Because you almost can't say anything right anymore.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I, like, we talked about this a little bit before. I'm on the fence about as far as past life stuff. My skeptical part is like, I don't know. I think that, this is not the topic of today, but I don't know. I just don't know. And sometimes when people say something like that, I'm like, I don't know.
I am becoming much more convinced of that, because over the past year or two, I have, mostly in dreams, but a lot of really bizarre recurring dreams. So we can dive into that on a different, it's not what we came to talk about today, but I would love to explore that. Actually, if we know anybody that is more of an expert in that, if anybody happens to be watching, I would love to talk to somebody that really knows their stuff, because for me, there's just some experiential learning going on right now.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So when it comes to whether it's from past life stuff, like when we have trauma, right, when we experience something, and trauma could be a big T, meaning like rape, murder, tragic loss of someone, to little trauma, which is, your mom said something to you and you interpreted it in a way that was, that just totally changed your life upside down. And, or I'm blanking. Just things that people wouldn't really say are traumatic, but internally for you it was traumatic. Mm-hmm. When you don't process those things fully, then they get trapped inside of you. And we wanted to give you some ideas of how to know if you do have trapped emotions, because when you do, here we'll just go through some of the lists, because this will explain what you're experiencing when you do. So, do you have a short fuse that doesn't take much to set off? If you were constantly angry, my dad, if you're ever watching this, I don't know if you ever would, but he was an adult child. His dad was an alcoholic, and so he was used to a lot of trauma. And you'd be like, oh, fine, but a lot of trauma, and everything is just like a pain. It's just like. And so when I was with them recently, on our trip, our family vacation, I said to my dad on the first day, I said, if I was a drinker, I'd be playing a drinking game, and I'd be so drunk right now. He's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, for every single time you're like, oh shoot, darn it, crap, right? Because every little thing, he just he has a short fuse, and that's just the conditioning that he was in. When your father, either parent is an alcoholic, right, you tend to experience a lot of chaotic energy. So, right? And so if you have a short fuse that doesn't take much to set off, you have trapped emotions.
Does it count if that only happens when you're driving?
I'm going to say no, especially if you're driving anywhere in the South.
Right? Or when you're in the school pickup area and some jackass thinks that they should just be the one person that pulls up and stops at the bottom of the stairs and blocks the traffic for every other person, even though there's lots of parking spaces you could be in.
Oh, very important ones. So you just have to let them do that. So
Exactly.
So another way to know if you have trapped emotions is if you have a lot of unexplained aches and pains and mystery ailments that you would never seem to know what the root cause is. This one's big.
That one is big.
Really big. So most people don't think about this at all. And they're like, oh, well, I've just had stomach issues my whole life, you know, or heart disease runs in the family, or, you know, cancer runs in the family.
Yeah. Or I always throw my lower back out.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Yep. All of these things, like when you have aches and pains in your body, it is because you have these emotions that get stored in your bodies. If you think about an emotion as a sphere, right? And you have an experience, you feel the emotion, and what most people do is they'll start to feel it and then they're like, nope, I don't want to feel this. And they shut themselves down. And so if you imagine an arc like the St. Louis arch, whatever it is, when you feel the emotions, the way that it works best is when we start to feel the emotion, and it increases and increases, and then it gets to that height, and then you release it, right? Like you literally do something cathartic to let go of that energy. But what happens for most people is they feel it, they shut it down up here. So then you have this ball of energy stuck inside of your body, and you imagine a river. And when like a beaver comes in and dams up the river, right, it's the same way within your body that things get stuck and congested. And so that creates aches and pains in your body that you like I don't know what it is. It just keeps happening. And everything physical will have an emotional connection to it. I mean, if you're hit by a bus, that's a different thing, right? But there's still trauma when you're hit by a bus.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say this too. Well, I was in a car accident in 1994, and I was riding in the bed of a truck. I don't know if I ever told you this before. I did. I was riding in the bed of a truck, and at that time, everybody did that. Like, it wasn't a big deal. And the driver, he wasn't drinking or anything. It was just after midnight, so and it just started raining. And he had hit an abandoned house accidentally. He thought it was a 4-way intersection, but it was only a 3-way intersection, and he realized too late. And so he hit this abandoned house. So me riding in the bed of the truck, my head slammed into the truck, and so I got a lot of trauma in my head, like my neck and shoulder areas. Well, so for 20 some years, I had in my my trap muscle back here had the worst pain. I mean, people would give me massages and then they'd be like, "Oh my gosh, like that. How does somebody your size have that on you?" And I just always thought it was from the car accident. But when I was at a emotion code, body code conference, Dr. Bradley Nelson, who founded the body code, did some work on me and asked if there's any trapped emotions, that need to be released that was causing this pain. And what he found was that there was a trapped emotion of self-abuse in my large intestine. And did I ever tell you the story?
Mm-hmm.
And so when he released the emotion, and still, even at that point, I was exploring this stuff, and I'm still like, oh, okay, whatever. I'm like, that pain was from the car accident. But what happens is when we're in an accident, that creates a weakness in our body, and then the emotions will tend to go to that area. Now, he did find that trapped emotion of self-abuse in my large intestine. So you're like, what does that have to do with that? Well, everything is connected. And we think that it's like, oh, well, this is my back, so this over here doesn't. But every single thing is connected. And after I sat down, I started to feel this bubble rise up in my gut, and this big old, it felt huge. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can feel it moving over. And you're in a conference, and so you're like, you're clenching as hard as you can, and you're doing everything you can, And when I went to the bathroom, it was like just this, like this release. And 2 days later, the pain in my arm was gone. And I did have to get some body work. And I will say that anytime I get stressed, like that's where my pain goes. Anytime I'm starting to feel something. But even when we have a physical trauma, there's still going to be something emotional about it. This creates a weak area for us. So if you, I just want to put this back up there again, if you have a lot of unexplained aches and pains and mystery ailments, right, that you don't know what it is, and you've been going to the doctors forever and, going on prescription after prescription and nothing seems to help, more than likely there's an emotional and energetic piece that needs to be looked at.
Yeah.
I know it sounds ridiculous.
I guess it doesn't sound ridiculous to me anymore.
But when you hear it for the first time, it sounds absolutely ridiculous.
Right.
It's like, no, this hurts because that's the way my family is, whatever. But we tend to not think about that fact that everything is in us is moving around. It's just moving is energetic. But that's a hard concept to grasp.
It is. And for the skeptics that will say, no, but my mom has this too, or, you just said that's just the way my family is. That stuff also gets passed down. So sometimes you're carrying it not because of a trauma or because of something that even happened to you. It's something that could have happened in your ancestral line. It's something that could have happened to your mom when you were in utero. It's, you could absorb it from the people you live around, or, there's a lot of other ways that this happens, even beyond what you might know happened to you, as in the case of an accident or some trauma that you experienced.
Right.
So just to make it even weirder for everyone.
Yeah. And it does, like I said, and I'm always going to be on that, like, not on the side, but like thinking about it from the lens of the skeptic is just who I am. And I'm like, how does that have anything to do with? But when you look at families and you see that there's the same pattern over and over and over again, well, it makes sense logically, but it kind of doesn't. Like, at the same time, you're like, no, that's theirs. But you got to clear that stuff out.
Yeah.
When I was working on one of my best friends who is Jewish, when I was working on her heart wall, the emotions of shame and guilt came up over and over and over again. Well, that makes sense, right? When you look at the Jewish people, like, it makes so much sense, right? Then when I had a couple people who were like, I had one woman who was like 100% Italian, and anger and frustration came up for her so much, and it's like, and they're like angry people, they react happy, but like she's like that New York Italian, it's like, and it just was curious seeing different people, like, from what cultures they're from, what emotions came up.
That's so interesting. I just did my ancestry DNA and I am 97% French. I was actually like mildly disappointed. I'm like, who's that freaking purebred? That's so weird. But I don't even know what I mean, and I actually, it shouldn't have been a surprise, but I was hoping there was like something else. Oh my God. But I don't know what the reputation of French people would be, that like, because, I guess you do think like Italians are hot-headed, whatever. I'm going to have to look at that and be like, what things would I be carrying specifically because of that?
Yeah.
I don't know either.
Yeah. So I do have a client that is French, though, so I can check in with her. I'd have to look and see hers and check, but
yeah. I mean, I guess I know some of them, but it doesn't seem like one that stands out to me as so strong as like Italians definitely have, like, that fieriness.
Right. Yeah, and it's funny because my dad just called and I'm like, was he watching? My dad doesn't call me that often. So I'm like, is he just watching? Just call me.
Hi, Dad.
So, yeah. So, okay, so when that leads into this next one, which is funny because it's like, if you find yourself easily triggered by emotional reminders of the past, like songs, smells, places, where the phone rings and you're like, oh crap, am I going to get yelled at? Like, and it's not. My dad and I have a great relationship. I love him to pieces, like, but there's things like if you smell something and all of a sudden you're taken back to a memory where you have an emotional charge that is like a level 10 out of 10 for you, right? Then there's some trauma that needs to be released from your body. You hear some songs that automatically like find yourself crying.
Yeah.
I was in Pilates this morning, and they're doing 80s week, and some of these fun 80s songs. But then at one point, Richard Marx, "Right Here Waiting for You" came on.
And you were instantly in junior high again?
Oh my gosh. It was summer before freshman year of high school. Yes. And it was Andy Baker, and totally remember it bad me this song, like a youth group, crush. I was like, oh, like, and I did just feel all of a sudden, I could feel that sadness in my body just come up.
That is so funny. I can't even remember what the song is now. I know I would know it if I heard it, but I remember in junior high that there was this boy I dated for one hot minute, and I broke up with him, and then he called me like 15 times in a row playing this, whatever the sad song of the moment was, just kept calling me and playing it. And I was like, I'm so sorry. Like, we didn't really have anything that big, Right. Now, every time I hear it, like, it's almost like, it's kind of, I'm sad for him. I'm just like, that was kind of a little over the top, dude. That was like my first crazy pants breakup.
Oh, poor guy. That's funny too. Not funny. It's not funny. Nobody's trauma is funny.
No, it's true.
How much, like, for you, it wasn't that big of a thing, but like, who knows what he had going on in his home life, right? And that he, like, latched on to you as like, well, will you love me, and then there's trauma bonds, and that's a whole
right. Other. I was insensitive 13-year-old and was kind of like,
yeah. So if you find yourself easily triggered by emotional memories of the past, songs, smells, places, etc., you have some emotions. Another one is if you find yourself stuck in behavior that you can't seem to break, no matter how you try. You're like, I don't know why I keep going back to that gallon of ice cream. I don't know why I'm driving by that guy's house when I know that we're not together anymore. Or, I don't know why I'm Facebook stalking this person right now.
Or if you say, I don't know why this keeps happening to me.
Oh, yeah.
Because just notice that one, because probably you have a role in it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a big one, because what happens is that we get stuck in, this energy gets stuck in us, and we will do everything we can to stay in alignment with who we believe ourselves to be. And our subconscious is always driving that. And so it's going to keep looking for ways to feed that feeling. And even though you're like, I don't want to be doing this, your subconscious keeps driving it. And Carl Jung said, until you make the subconscious conscious, it will control your life, and you will call it fate.
Yeah.
You have to get that stuff out of your body. Period.
Yeah.
And so here's one other, and there's a bunch of others, but this is one other one that we'll talk about, is if you've ever experienced physical or emotional trauma. That's an obvious one. Okay, but if you've ever had any kind of, like I mentioned earlier, big T, little t trauma, right, that left an emotional scar, and you haven't worked it out with someone, you have trapped emotions.
Yeah.
So how does it show up in your life? All the things that we just said, that's how it shows up in your life. Physically, you have stuff that you can't explain, you can't seem to get like moving in life. You can't find that you, here's one. This is one that I didn't put up there. If you have a hard time feeling emotionally available and connected to others on a deep level, I hear people say this, my clients say this to me all the time. They're like, I just don't feel like I can connect with anyone else. And oftentimes myself, like, I don't know who I am. That is also a sign. So all of these things are saying you have some emotions that are trapped inside your body. Because the human experience is meant for connection. It's meant for feeling. It's not meant for, being in perfect land all the time. And like Pollyanna, I feel great all the time. It's meant to be able to feel the whole range of the emotions that we as humans get to feel.
Right.
And I'm starting to think I think I must feel them, but probably not the same range that we do. But
yeah, they definitely feel them. But yeah, I think also, in that note, because I've kind of been on this like bent this, I don't know, recently about I hate good vibes only messaging and no bad days and stuff, because fuck yes, you can have a bad day.
Mhm.
It's called being human. You don't need to shame yourself for that or try to gaslight yourself or whatever it is. Part of what makes these things get trapped is, we've talked about this lots before, but it's the meaning you assign to it. We've deemed feeling sad bad. We've deemed being angry bad. We've deemed feeling
Yeah, angry.
conflict. Yeah, I mean, there's so many things that we've decided. Nobody wants to feel that way. You shouldn't feel that way. Whatever stories you were telling yourself, we were just talking about messaging your parents gave you, where something that always stood out in my childhood was, if you shed a tear, you got the, I'll give you something to cry about. Oh, I guess crying is really, really bad. I better not do that.
Yeah.
Or I better invalidate the fact that I already am crying because I mustn't have had a reason to cry before. That's what traps this stuff. We don't very often find, there's like, you can have the trapped emotion of overjoy or whatever, but rarely are there trapped emotions that we deem pleasant because we allow ourselves to feel them.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it is the thing that I say all the time. I know you know this, and I've heard said this 1,000 times, is when you're feeling something, first acknowledge that you're feeling it. Just be like, oh, I'm feeling really angry right now. Mm-hmm. And accept it. Like, it's okay that I'm feeling like this, right? And just let yourself feel it. Doesn't mean go out and be destructive, right? But feel the feeling. And that allows you to take you through that whole progression of like, the feeling increases, escalates, you get to the top, and then it starts to de-escalate until you go to neutral again. Yes. When you do that, it's the hardest thing. It's something I'm reminding my clients all the time. Me? Yeah. And I'm like, should I be feeling this? I'm like, well, you should, because you are, and it's okay.
Right.
Like,
right.
The
realistic challenge is, we all have jobs, or we have time. There's times and places where it may not feel like the appropriate place to allow yourself to feel and express a certain emotion. When that happens, try to carve some time out to go feel and express it. And I think something that has really helped me, I don't know, we've probably talked about this before, but as you're experiencing an emotion, to really tap into where are you feeling it within your physical body, and then try to breathe through that space, kind of just not to force it away, but to experience it.
Yes.
To notice the experience of that emotion, because where I feel a certain emotion, maybe for me, I'm very like solar plexus sacral, like most of my stuff is there. I think I'm sacral. Sacral is my authority, I guess. So I will feel it in my low belly. Like when I have like a strong emotion, that's probably the first place I feel it. Sometimes I will feel it in my heart. Sometimes I feel it in my throat. But we may label the same emotion as, I feel anxious right now, but feel it in different places within our individual bodies.
Mm-hmm.
So just letting it be a sensory experience really helps you tune into the emotion, connect with it, not try to shame it or push it away or squash it or pretend it's not there,
Yeah. And that's what I love about this, doing, the body code work, is basically it allows people to have the space to feel new emotions that come in. And because when they come to me and we start working together, and as you know, we release a lot of stuff, right? And get a lot of work done. And it just is like going in and pulling one stick at a time out of that dam, that was created. And as that happens, there's more flow that can come through. And so my clients tell me all the time, they're like, I'm just feeling it. It's just okay. Whereas when we first started working together, everything was like, well, I need an emergency phone call, help,
Yeah.
And a couple of weeks, they're like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
Just this, a client right now that's going through a big traumatic and dramatic experience. And, we got on the phone on Saturday, which is unusual. It's like an emergency call, but he was like, I'm actually doing really good. It's like, I'm doing way better than I thought that I would be, because, we've done so much work around it. Mm-hmm. And I love hearing that, because when we can have this space to be able to then be an observer of what's happening instead of being in it, because we no longer are jumbled up. We don't have all these emotions jumbled up inside of us. Now we just have space, the energy can flow through us. It's like, oh, okay, that's what's happening. I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So much joy, when I work with people to see that happen for them.
Totally.
And I had a friend say to me the other day, she's like, Heather, of all of like our group of friends, she's like, no matter what's happening, you're the most even keel. Like things could be really bad or things, but she's like, you're always just pretty even keel and you just see it for what it is and you don't get worked up. And I was like, you have no idea how grateful I am to hear that. Like, I think I definitely things that I get worked up, but like I don't let it like, really impact my day. But I know like growing up, I was not that. 10 years ago, I wasn't that person at all. Like, my emotions or my feelings, my emotions ruled me, and it's just releasing all of that stuff, like, definitely allows to, so, yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same about that. And then being very in tune with my own needs, like for sleep, for water, for good nutrition, for exercise. Because when I fall out of any one of those routines, and in particular, if more than one of them gets screwed up at a time, I notice how quickly I can be like irritated with my daughter or angry in traffic. I'm not an angry driver ever, but when I start like really getting pissed off at people that don't use their blinker and like really like, I'm like, wow, why am I so angry at that person? Not turning on their blinker is probably one of my biggest pet peeves, but usually I just roll my eyes and move on. And then every once in a while I'll be like all the F-bombs and I'm like, wow, that was a bit of an overreaction.
Right. These poor are probably like something else is going on, that you didn't dealt with. But I want to read this comment that, so Judy just said she's somebody that I worked with years ago, probably at least 8 years ago, I would say 8 years ago. She said, I owe the training we went through to who I am now. She's like, I live at Cedars Healthcare Facility. I'll tell you her backstory after this. But I live at Cedars Healthcare Facility. I couldn't take care of myself after the car accident after Lou died last year. Best thing ever. People can't believe the positive outlook I have on life. Plus, I've met my new boyfriend, Dave, and he's very attracted to strong women. That just makes me want to cry because she's had a really hard string of things, including a car accident where she lost her legs.
Oh, wow. And
then her husband died last year.
Wow.
That's a lot of shit. And Judy, if you're still, like watching this, thank you for sharing that. Like, and that's what can happen. When we work together, we released a lot of childhood trauma that she had.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, that stuff is amazing. And that's what can happen, like shitty things happen in life. They're going to. When you have trapped emotions and trauma, it just seems like the worst thing in the entire world, and it just compounds and compounds. It's like an avalanche, right? But when you are able to be clear and free of that buildup inside of you, you're like, when things happen, because they will, because we're humans living on this crazy rock spinning around, they're going to happen. It's so much easier to just, it is. Right? Yeah. So if you're like listening to this and you're like, oh, all of those things, I could say yes to all of those things. Right? Both Deb and I would love to help you with this. Reach out to either one of us. I will leave our information here. You can reach me at Heather. Go to my website, heathere.com. You can schedule a time to talk with me. You can find me on Instagram there. Deb's Instagram is demysticism. You can send her a message, and see who's if somebody's a good fit for you. Because both Deb and I both know that like different people resonate with different people, and neither of us get mad about anybody. Like it's like, as long as somebody is getting the healing that they desire.
Absolutely.
That's that's what we're here for. So if any of these resonated with you, reach out. I have space for a couple, like for 3 more one-on-one clients where we dive deep into releasing trapped emotions. We work together for starting off 6 months, and you get energy work on you multiple times a week.
Yep.
And
Same. And I have actually, I'm still putting it together to make it, a real thing, but I have added custom meditations to my offerings. So to help facilitate the energy healing in between times that we talk, or in between sessions, and really kind of help you with that release, I have started adding personalized, private, recorded meditations that you can do in your own time, but they are tailored specifically to each client. I channel them, I guess. I always feel a little silly saying that, but while I'm still tapped in, I just figure out, I hear these messages that are meant for the client. They oftentimes make about no sense to me, but they seem to resonate with the person they're meant for. So, yeah. I have to add that to my website. I started doing it, and I am not the best at updating my website, but I'm going to do that.
That's awesome. Yeah, Judy just wrote one more message. She said, "Everyone here loves me." That's because she's very lovable, and it's easy to love somebody who has, and not that we're going back to the whole positive vibes only, but when somebody is, in a positive place and can be with their emotions, right? It's very easy to be attracted to that person, not just in a sexual way, but just what do they have?
What do they have? Exactly. And I am not knocking the power of positivity. I'm all about it. I'm just saying, we need to allow space for it's okay to be not okay sometimes.
Right. And there's a difference between somebody messaged me the other day and it was like, wah, 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 my life's so far, my life is this. And it's you have to be stop. You get to choose to be that way,
Yes. Versus, we should kind of dive into that, the nuance of that, because I do think, maybe not now, obviously, but there are people that are just straight up Eeyore, and they're going to keep on attracting more crappy experiences because it's all they ever focus on.
Yeah.
But a lot of the people, most people understand. I don't, whatever. A lot, whatever. But if you're working toward an improved version of yourself, there are going to be days where you feel like you backslid. There's going to be days that just plain suck. Right. It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. But if you find that you can't get out of that, that's that you have trapped emotions.
Yes.
And that's what we're here for. So we'll end with, Judy said, I have tons of confidence and I'm okay. She does. So thank you for sharing that, Judy.
Awesome. Yeah, very cool. Thank you for watching too.
Yes, thank you. Okay, everybody, we will see you guys on the next time. And if this resonates, reach out. We'd love to help you with this. No one should be walking around with any of these things. Yourself. Yep. We'll talk to you later. Bye. Bye.